Welcome back, dear listener. Tonight we will explore the strange and winding story of sleep. We all do it, yet most of us know almost nothing about how it came to shape our lives and our societies. In the next few minutes, you will journey through firelit caves, sacred temples, candlelit chambers, and neon-lit bedrooms. You will meet ancient dreamers, medieval night owls, and modern insomniacs. And you will see how a simple act closing your eyes sparked mystery, fear, devotion, and ding, even profit. In our world today, sleep advice feels endless. Drink a tea, download an app, adjust your straps, charge your bracelet. Everywhere you look, someone promises the perfect slumber hack. Yet despite all that, many of us still lie awake, staring at the ceiling or scrolling on our phones. If you have ever counted sheep until you lost count, you're in good company. Across time, people have tried every trick under the sun and the moon to catch those elusive Z's. But it was not always so complicated. Long before clocks and calendars, our ancestors didzed when the sun dipped low and woke when it rose again. They napped in shifts, shared warm fires, and trusted the night sky to guide them. To them, sleep was practical, communal, and sometimes sacred. Dreams were messages from gods, warnings from spirits, or simple echoes of a long day's hunt. Over centuries, beliefs shifted. Temples taught people to sleep for healing. Monks debated whether rest was laziness or piety. Poets mourned lost slumbers. And doctors preached against both too much and too little. Beds transformed from straw piles on the floor to grand four-poster thrones, as comfort became a sign of status. Candles and clock towers marched time into every household, turning sleep into a scheduled event. Tonight, we will unravel these threads. We will laugh at odd customs, shake our heads at strange remedies, and maybe feel grateful for that simple mattress under our backs. Whether you drift off halfway through or stay awake to hear every word, remember, sleep is a universal human experiment, an experiment still in progress. So settle in, find your favorite pillow, and allow yourself to drift through history's most enduring habit. Your journey begins now. Picture a world without calendars or alarm clocks. Dusk fell, and you slept whenever. Imagine huddling with your tribe round a crackling fire, the glow dancing on rough-hewn faces as you shared warmth and company. There were no bedrooms, no. Houses as we know them, just open air, or simple shelters made from branches and animal skins. With no strict bedtime, sleep was woven into daily survival rather than carved out as a separate ritual. Our ancestors practiced polyphasic sleep without meaning to. They dozed in short bouts, waking and napping again, as fatigue and danger dictated. Exhaustion wasn't a condition to complain about. It was simply proof of a hard day's hunt, or gathering. A sudden rustle in the nearby brush meant everyone jolted awake, senses on high alert. One unexpected roar from a predator could send the entire group scrambling to reignite embers or sprint to safety. The boundary between rest and fight or flight blurred into a constant shared experience. Yet sleep in prehistory wasn't all terror and adrenaline. There was comfort in communal rest. Lying shoulder to shoulder, bodies pressed close, meant heat conservation and immediate support if someone stirred from a nightmare. Whispered stories and soft laughter by firelight replaced late-night scrolling. Children dozed beside parents. Elders kept watch, and the darkest hours became a time for bonding. Subtle lullabies, hum of the wind, crackle of fire served as the original white noise machines. Without clocks, mornings came when the sky brightened. No bleary-eyed fumbling. For snooze buttons, just a slow return to wakefulness as birds called and the first rays of dawn filtered through leaves. A shared stretch, a grip on simple tools, and life resumed. Work and rest were governed by the sun and seasons, not by a printed schedule or smart device. This intimate connection to nature shaped every aspect of life, making sleep feel like part of a grand ongoing cycle rather than an item on a to-do list. In colder climates, sleep arrangements adapted to geography. Inside shallow caves or rock overhangs, groups arranged stone block walls to block drafts. In open plains, they might build low mounds of grass or leaves, cushioning the hard earth. Hides draped overhead warded off moisture. These crude beds were communal mattresses, nothing like our high-tech foam, but effective for their time. Notice how even the simplest protections signaled the importance of rest amidst constant threats. Nutrition and daily routines influenced sleep patterns too. After a successful hunt or harvest, feasting led to contented drowsiness. During lean times, hunger pangs interrupted slumber, forcing half-awake nights spent tending to makeshift fires or foraging for edible roots. Sleep became a luxury or a necessity, depending on the season. Our ancestors learned to conserve energy, slipping into deeper sleep when food was scarce and staying lightly dozy when on edge. Social dynamics played a role. Those who stood guard at night earned respect, their vigil allowing others to rest deeply. This rotating watch system fostered trust and reinforced community bonds. No single person should bear the burden of sleeplessness alone, yet being on watch offered quiet heroism, a moment of solitude under the moon. These night guardians experienced the world's hush before dawn, perhaps the earliest insomniacs, watching stars wheel overhead and reflecting on life's mysteries. Humans have always sought comfort, even in the wild. Evidence suggests early tribes used animal furs, layered vegetation, and softened earth with river silt to create more pleasant sleeping surfaces. Some groups even developed simple bedding, rituals stroking cooled stones, or using aromatic herbs to ward off insects and soothe the mind. This impulse toward comfort foreshadows our modern obsession with mattresses, sheets, and pillow talk. Despite the dangers, nighttime held a certain allure. Stories passed between yawns, jokes told in hushed voices, and the crackle of fire turned ordinary moments into treasured memories. Sleep wasn't an end to be feared. It was part of life's rhythm, filled with sensory details: smoky air, damp earth, the chorus of nocturnal creatures that anchored humans to their environment. In these early slumbers, we find the roots of our fascination with night, dreams, and rest. As we move forward in history, you'll see how the communal, organic nature of our ancestors' sleep gave way to structured hours and private bedrooms. Yet the core remains the same. Sleep began as a shared, adaptive necessity. Understanding this ancient practice reminds us that rest, at its heart, is woven into our biology and communities. Tonight, when you close your eyes, remember those first. Sleepers beneath the stars trusting one another, guided by the natural world, and dreaming without schedules or screens. In ancient Egypt, Greece, and Mesopotamia, sleep carried a sacred weight. Dreams were more than random images. They were messages from gods or whispers from the underworld. In bustling temple complexes, priests served as dream interpreters, offering guidance for a fee. Weary travelers and hopeful petitioners laid on stone benches or simple mats in dimly lit chambers, eager for divine insight. At the Asclepian sanctuaries of Greece, visitors sought healing through incubation sleep. They entered dark halls, scented with incense, lay on stone couches, and waited for visions. Priests watched over their rest, ready to translate any unsettling dream. These early sleep retreats resembled wellness spas minus spa music and avocado toast. People believed a god's visit in sleep could cure disease, reveal lost items, or foretell battles. In Egypt, dreams held equal power. Pharaohs kept dream journals inscribed on papyrus, recording visions of gods appearing in fields of light. Elite nobles slept in special chambers, painted with protective spells. Artisans carved amulets showing winged deities to guard slumber. The boundary between sleep and death blurred mummification rituals, even referred to the afterlife as the long sleep. Across Mesopotamia, dream libraries cataloged symbolic meanings. Recurring images lions, serpents, rivers carried. Standardized interpretations. Scribes compiled these into clay tablets, creating one of humanity's first self-help manuals. If you dreamed of a rising river, expect a flood or a change in fortune. Merchants consulted these guides before trading. Caravans set out. Religious texts also mention sacred naps. In the Hebrew Bible, Jacob's ladder dream became a foundational vision. Prophets slept on dirt-packed floors, hoping for divine contact. Yet some leaders saw rest as a risk. Holy insomnia was a mark of piety for certain sects' long nights. Of prayer and fasting replaced deep sleep. They believed vigilance kept the soul sharp and sin at bay. While priests and prophets valued sleep's spiritual side, moralists sometimes condemned it. In some Greek philosophies, excessive sleep was laziness, a vice to overcome. Stoics advised moderation, urging citizens to balance rest with virtuous action. They frowned on luxurious bedding, preferring simple mats that kept one close to nature. And duty. Despite mixed views, many cultures built architecture around sleep. Small dream rooms featured niches for lamps, benches for resting, and carved symbols to ward off nightmares. Artwork depicted winged guardians hovering over slumbering. Figures' early attempts at a comforter or bedtime story. Herbs and oils played a role in spiritual sleep. Egyptians burned blue lotus flowers for gentle sedation. Greeks anointed pillows with lavender and thyme. These scents eased the transition to dreamscapes, guiding souls toward divine realms. Subtle. Aromas drifted through temple halls, much like modern aromatherapy shops. Mild sarcasm flickers through this era. Paid nap retreats and spirit-guarded beds sound extravagant, yet people still complained of insomnia. Apparently, even divine help couldn't compete with overthinking or the occasional scorpion in your sandals. By the end of this period, sleep had become a bridge between mortal and divine. People feared nightmares as much as they revered prophetic visions. They built rituals, spaces, and guides to navigate the mystery each night brought. In the next part, we'll shift to medieval rhythms, how two distinct sleeps reshaped nightly life when faith and superstition intertwined with daily chores. Until then, remember, even gods needed a good nap now and then. Imagine darkness settling over a walled town. Torches gutter, birdsong silenced, and the night becomes a canvas of shadows. In medieval Europe, most people did not expect a single uninterrupted rest. Instead, they practiced biphasic sleep too. Distinct phases separated by an hour or two of quiet wakefulness. They called them first sleep and second sleep, and that in-between stretch was a time for reflection, chores, or even other activities. As dusk deepened, families and neighbors climbed into straw-stuffed mattresses or simple wooden beds. By the time the church bells tolled for matins, they drifted into their first sleep. This initial slumber lasted until around midnight. Then, as if on cue, eyes fluttered open, muscles loosened, and people rose to stretch limbs and catch their breath. They lit tallow candles or oil lamps, careful not to spill hot wax on linens. Routine tasks like mending clothes, feeding a reluctant farm animal, or fetching water became evening chores under dim light. During this pause, dubbed the watch, medieval households blended quiet industry with gentle leisure. Some used the time for prayer, reciting psalms in hushed tones to ward off nightmares. Devout souls might slip into the small wooden chapel for a short vigil, seeking comfort in candlelight. Others wandered outside, marveling at moonlit fields or consulting the stars' early stargazers in a world without telescopes. The gap also provided a chance to share whispered tales, family, lore, or local gossip. Without smartphones to distract them, human voices filled the night. Romantic encounters sometimes flourished in this twilight. Courting couples, chaperoned by lantern-bearers, stole moments before dawn. Love songs carried on the breeze, mingling with hoots of owls. The midnight hush made each whisper feel conspiratorial. Historians even suggest some used the watch hour for more private pleasures. It seems medieval discretion applied to more than just bedsheets. As second sleep approached, often around 2 a.m. people returned to their beds. Stones or logs propped. Under bedposts muffled creaks as occupants settled in. Children, who napped earlier in the afternoon, fell back first, while elders lingered, savoring the calm. The second slumber lasted until cockcrow or sunrise, when church bells, rooster calls, and household bustle summoned everyone to labor. Sleeping in 2 phases suited medieval life. It matched seasonal rhythms, longer nights in winter, shorter ones in summer, and accommodated unpredictable labor demands. Harvest season saw first and second sleep compressed by long hours of fieldwork. Those in cold climates layered more blankets, trading shorter watch periods for deeper rest. Beds themselves were communal affairs. Wealthy homes featured 4-poster canopies and curtains. These drapes offered warmth and privacy, reducing drafts and muffling noise from siblings or servants. In modest cottages, large wooden troughs filled, with straw or dried grasses served as mattresses. Families sometimes shared them, not out of closeness alone but necessity. Strangers lodging at inns or pilgrim hostels squeezed into the same bed truss based on hospitality codes rather than pillow talk. Privacy, as we know it, was rare. Sleeping bodies, covered in shared blankets, created a sense of solidarity. A restless sleeper might nudge neighbors, prompting mutual comfort. If a child stirred, parents lifted them into the bed, where they dozed until dawn. The line between family and household staff blurred in this nocturnal huddle. Despite the benefits, the medieval watch had its challenges. Thieves and marauders sometimes prowled between first and second sleep, using the dim vigil to scout easy targets. Households kept simple weapons, knives, or wooden staffs close at hand. Some towns organized night watches, with villagers taking turns patrolling lanes. Those on duty during the watch earned respect, but missed deeper sleep, learning early. That vigilance had both honor and cost. Medical thinkers of the time noted the watch as a natural part of sleep. They believed the first sleep cleansed the mind of daily worries, while the second restored physical energy. Monastic rules, even those of strict Benedictine houses, accommodated biphasic rest, scheduling nocturnes between the 2 sleeps. Monks felt the watch hour, spent in prayer, bridged the sacred and the mundane. It reinforced the idea that night should serve both body and spirit. By the late medieval period, the rise of mechanical clocks and louder urban life began to erode the watch. Church bells rang more frequently, cutting into sleep cycles. Wealthier families hired night watchmen with lanterns, whose footsteps and lantern light made the midnight stillness less peaceful. Gradually, the idea of one long sleep took hold among elites, though rural folk clung to the old rhythms. The legacy of first and second sleep resurfaced centuries later, when historians discovered diary entries and court records describing midnight vigils. Reading these, we realize our ancestors viewed sleep not as a single event, but a tapestry woven with wakeful threads. When you lie in bed tonight, consider whether your restless moments echo those medieval gaps, perhaps a natural pause, once shaped by candles and church bells rather than anxiety and screens. Next, we'll delve into the world of medieval dreams, omens and night terrors, how folklore and superstition turned our nightly visions into prophecy or peril. Until then, rest well, Doctor. Your Biphasic heritage awaits reflection. In medieval Europe, sleep was never just rest. It was a portal to the unknown. Your dreams could foretell the harvest, warn of danger, or reveal hidden truths if you knew how to read them. But they could also unleash fears that lingered long. After dawn, let's explore how folklore and superstition shaped nightly visions, and how people armed themselves against the terrors that prowled their sleep. Dreams carried meaning in every castle and cottage. If you dreamed of harvest sheaves, bending under ripe wheat, you expected good fortune in the fields. Cattle grazing peacefully meant wealth and health for the household. But nightmares, those ghastly, heart-racing visions, were blamed on malevolent forces. A figure with hollow eyes, a faceless shadow, or a screaming beast, all signaled a full spirit's visit. Nightmares earned a special name: incubus for demons that pressed on chests, and mare for spirits that rode souls to madness. People believed these entities fed on fear, growing stronger with every terrified gasp. A bad dream wasn't dismissed as stress, it was a call to action. To ward off these nocturnal fiends, households relied on simple charms and rituals. An iron horseshoe nailed above the bed frame reminded evil that iron hurt spirits. Sprigs of rosemary or rue tucked under pillows offered aromatic protection. Some families kept an oath-marked wooden cross by the bedside, its carved letters spelling safety. In remote villages, folk healers often called cunning folk offered personalized remedies. They might brew a potion of lavender and valerian for calmer sleep, or recite a chant as they sprinkled holy water on the bedposts. These practitioners walked the line between respected healer and suspected witch, depending on local superstition. Church authorities had mixed opinions. Some clerics insisted that only sacraments and prayer could cleanse a soul troubled by demons. Priests would bless beds and recite exorcism rites for households plagued by nightmares. In extreme cases, they recorded the names of afflicted families in parish registers, so visiting clergy could offer extra prayers. Dream interpretation also flourished, especially among the educated elite. Monks and scholars collected dream accounts in manuscripts, classifying common symbols. A raven in flight meant an approaching messenger. A broken sword warned of betrayal. These dream books served as medieval self-help guides, helping people navigate personal crises. But not all dreams were symbolic. Sleep paralysis, that moment of immobile terror when you wake but can't move, was understood as a demon pressing on your chest. Sufferers described overwhelming weight and choking sensations. There was no scientific term, only fear. People sometimes slept sitting up to avoid the chest-crushing spirit, or tied ropes to the bedposts so they could tug and rouse household members for help. Some remedies focused on the body. Placing a small stone under the mattress was thought to disperse the demon's weight. Wearing an amulet necklace to bed acted as a personal safe, ward against nightmares. Others strove for literal comfort, layering extra blankets to block out drafts, believing cold corners invited spirits. Superstitions around bedtime extended to preparing the room, sweeping the floor thoroughly to remove stray pebbles so the devil couldn't hide and trip you. Leaving a bucket of water by the bed to confuse ghosts was another trick. It was said that a lost spirit searching for water would fall in and disappear. Despite all precautions, terror sometimes struck. Chronic nightmares could lead to genuine sleep aversion, a fear so strong people dreaded lying down. Historical records describe individuals insisting on daytime napping instead, or requiring a friend to sit beside them until dawn. These sufferers were both pitied and feared, as communities believed extreme nightmares marked one for supernatural attention. Literature of the time captured these anxieties. In Dante's Inferno, dreams and nightmares serve as warnings of moral peril. Chaucer's The Book of the Duchess recounts grief-driven dreams, and countless folk tales emphasize the thin veil between waking and dreaming. These works demonstrate how deeply intertwined sleep and spirituality were. By the late Middle Ages, more skeptical voices emerged. Early physicians began to question supernatural causes, attributing nightmares to bad humors, digestive issues, or lack of fresh air. They recommended diet changes, room ventilation, and herbal teas. Yet even these medical texts acknowledged the power of belief. Sometimes a blessed charm did more good than any remedy. Through it all, medieval sleepers lived in a world where every doze could end in insight or terror. Dreams remained a mirror, reflecting hopes and fears, and night terrors embodied the anxieties of a world beset by disease, war, and famine. As you lie down tonight, recall these old beliefs. Consider whether your own restless dreams come from your mind or something beyond the veil. Next, we'll journey to the beds themselves, how material comforts and class differences shaped where and how people slept. Until then, rest easy, if you can. In the medieval world, where you slept spoke volumes about who you were. For most, a bed was little more than a pile of straw, leaves, or animal hides stuffed into a wooden frame. Aristocrats, by contrast, reclined on sumptuous feather beds draped with silk and velvet. Let's unravel how these humble foundations evolved into status symbols and how comfort became a sign of social rank. In peasant cottages, mattresses took the form of rough wooden troughs lined with straw or dried grasses. Families collected the best stalks they could find, wheat, rye, or even reeds, layering them twice a year. Come harvest, they replaced crushed, soiled straw with fresh bundles. Tick's linen sacks held the stuffing in place, though holes and leaks were common. Stray bits of chaff escaped at night, prickling bare skin. Peasants seldom owned pillows. Instead, they used folded woolen cloaks or wooden headrests carved to cradle the neck. Imagine crawling into such a bed after a hard day's toil. The straw might be damp with morning dew or summer sweat, yet it offered insulation from the cold earth. A thick woolen blanket, often woven at home, kept out drafts. Sharing a narrow mattress with children, a spouse, or even livestock pigs. And chickens slept nearby to provide extra warmth. Privacy was scarce, but bodies pressed close meant collective security against nighttime dangers. By contrast, noble chambers showcased four-poster beds with tall posts connected by a canopy. Heavy curtains of damask or brocade hung from carved wooden rails, enclosing a private alcove. These drapes blocked both drafts and prying eyes. Feather-stuffed mattresses, often imported from distant lands, rested on finely carved bed frames. Several layered blankets and richly embroidered coverlets signaled wealth. Some highborn slept under a velvet tester, a decorative canopy roofed in precious fabrics. The cost of such luxury was immense. Feathers were collected from geese and ducks, cleaned and dyed. Silk woven by skilled artisans carried intricate patterns, floral motifs, heraldic symbols, or mythological scenes. These fabrics required constant upkeep. Servants beat, aired, and remade the beds daily to prevent damp and dust, an early form of luxury housekeeping. In between peasant and noble lay the emerging bourgeoisie merchants, craftsmen, and minor officials who adopted hybrid bedding. They traded up from straw to wool and down from silk to fine hemp. Their beds might feature wooden frames with simple curtains and hemp-stuffed ticks. A painted headboard, showing a family crest or biblical scene, added personal flair. These middling households aspired to aristocratic comfort without the expense of exotic materials. Travel introduced another variety, the folding camp bed or bedding roll. Pilgrims and soldiers carried canvas frames and straw-filled ticks strapped to their saddles. When night fell, they assembled crude cots or unrolled bedding on the ground. Mobility demanded durability more than luxury. Yet some military leaders, like medieval knights, prized cushioned couches in their tents, embroidered with battle banners. Early portable status symbol. Hospitals and guest houses developed communal sleeping halls. Long wooden benches lined with straw ticks stood against the walls. Patients or travelers slept head to toe in alternating directions. High ceilings and large windows improved ventilation, a nod to growing medical theories linking fresh air to health. These shared dormitories reflected a practical approach, safety in numbers and minimal luxury. Beds also held symbolic meaning. In marriage chambers, consorts displayed ornate canopies to impress guests and legitimize heirs. The marriage bed became central in legal disputes over dowries. In monastic settings, simple pallets reinforced vows of poverty. Monks slept on raised wooden platforms with coarse blankets, often without pillows, emphasizing discipline over comfort. Rituals surrounded the act of bedding down. Newlyweds were led to their decorated bedchamber amid songs and blessings. Children's first cradles, miniature wicker beds, were blessed to ward off harm. Beyond function, beds became sites of ceremony, writing the human life cycle into the very fabric of sleep. By the late medieval period, innovations emerged. Featherbeds started appearing in artisan guild records. Fur-lined blankets provided both warmth and status. European explorers brought back exotic textiles, cotton from the East, richly patterned rugs from the Ottoman Empire enriching bed decor. Local weavers experimented with mixing wool and linen for softer ticks. Yet even into the Renaissance, the stark contrast remained. For most, a bed was a tool for survival. For the wealthy, it was a statement piece. As we progressed into modernity, the push for comfort accelerated. But these medieval origins remind us how closely sleep and social order intertwined. Tonight, when you lie down on your plush mattress, remember the countless generations who dozed on straw, huddled for warmth, or traded privacy for practicality. Our quest for a perfect bed springs from these early experiments in comfort and status. In the 17th and 18th centuries, thinkers began treating sleep as a subject for study rather than a divine mystery. Philosophers, physicians, and curious amateurs probed questions we still ask today. Why do we sleep? What happens when we don't? René Descartes, famed for "I think, therefore I am," hypothesized that sleep involved the flow of animal spirits through the nerves. His model was mechanical brains worked like clocks, and sleep occurred when those tiny spirits slowed down. While we now know this isn't quite accurate, Descartes set the stage for scientific inquiry rather than superstition. In England, medical men like Thomas Willis documented sleep paralysis in case studies. His detailed descriptions of sufferers, unable to move, pressed by a heavy weight on the chest, mirrored medieval nightmare tales, but he framed them as physiological phenomena, not demon visits. Willis's work encouraged others to record symptoms, methodically laying the groundwork for modern neurology. Sleep deprivation experiments emerged, sometimes with reckless abandon. In France, Denis Delisle reportedly stayed awake for over 100 hours to test willpower, an ordeal that left him bedridden and rambling in delirium. Volunteers in British universities attempted even longer stints, only to collapse into hallucinations. These early trials taught a harsh lesson. The brain and body need rest more than rising productivity. At the same time, clockmakers and instrument makers introduced devices to monitor sleep. A nocturnal, a simple tool showing the hour. By moonlight helped sailors track time at sea. Home clocks, once rare, became more affordable, and watchmakers crafted ticking pendulums strong enough to chime in the bedroom. The steady tick-tock replaced the sun's movement as our chief timekeeper, physicians began prescribing sleep regimens. They recommended consistent bedtimes, temperate rooms, and moderation in diet and drink. Books like Robert James's Physicians Dictionary included entries on sleep, linking it to humoral balance. Too much sleep, they warned, could stagnate blood and bile. Too little, and the body heated with choleric fury. The Goldilocks zone of slumber became a medical target. Yet ethics lagged behind curiosity. Some researchers tested unusual theories tying patients to beds to monitor twitching muscles or depriving them of light and sound in pitch-dark cells. These methods often caused lasting trauma. Critics argued that the pursuit of knowledge should not override compassion. These debates foreshadowed modern research ethics committees. Philosophers weighed in on sleep's purpose. John Locke saw dreams as byproducts of daily experiences, like echoes in a cave. Gottfried Leibniz speculated that sleep might reorganize ideas in the mind, an early nod toward memory consolidation. While they lacked today's imaging tools, their intuitive leaps hinted at truths neuroscience would confirm centuries later. Public fascination with sleep grew. Journals published letters describing odd dreams or insomnia cures. Coffee houses buzzed with debates on whether a short nap restored vigor or merely delayed the inevitable. Some intellectuals flaunted their minimal sleep habits as badges of genius. Voltaire claimed 4 hours a night. Benjamin Franklin insisted on early rising and catnaps. Their anecdotes fueled the myth that great minds needed less rest. By the late 18th century, natural philosophers began using thermometers and barometers to study how temperature and weather affected sleep. They noted that damp, cold rooms led to restless nights, while stifling heat caused languor. These observations informed early building designs, favoring higher ceilings, larger windows, and breezeways to regulate bedroom climates. At the same time, advances in chemistry uncovered compounds that could induce or deepen sleep. Laudanum tincture of opium became a popular remedy despite its addictiveness. Wine and spirits were recommended by some doctors for their soporific effects. These treatments straddled the line between medicine and indulgence, setting the stage for the later sleep aid industry. In universities and salons, the line between scientific rigor and showmanship sometimes blurred. Public demonstrations of mesmeric sleep by charismatic healers drew curious crowds. Participants, under the influence of suggestion, appeared to enter deep slumber with controlled breathing, a spectacle that foreshadowed hypnosis. While skeptics called it theater, these performances sparked further interest in the minds. Power over rest. By the dawn of the 19th century, sleep had moved firmly into the realm of science. Institutes studied dream journals, collected sleep data, and proposed theories on brain waves, though they lacked our modern EEG. The shift from moralizing sleep to measuring it marked a turning point. Rest was no longer a mysterious gift, or a divine test, but a vital physiological process. Tonight, as you settle under your covers, consider the legacy of those early scientists, some brilliant, some reckless, whose experiments built our understanding of sleep. They traded superstition for scrutiny, and in doing so, opened the path to today's sleep labs, wearable trackers, and endless studies. Part 8 awaits, where artificial light and industrial schedules reshape the very notion of night. Sleep well, doctor, but not too well. We have more history ahead. With the scientific revolution in full swing, humans began conquering darkness itself. Once night meant unbroken darkness, but now artificial light and machines reshaped how and when we slept. This wasn't just progress. It was a revolution. That turned night from refuge into a second workday and gradually erased our ancestors' natural rhythms. Candles, oil lamps, and tallow lights first extended evening hours. Market streets glowed under flickering flame, and homes rang with the Chatter of families, cooking by lamplight. Lavish households installed chandeliers dripping with candles, while modest cottages relied on rushlight strips of dried plant pith soaked in grease. These light sources were smoky, dim, and fiery hazards, yet they offered more hours for reading, sewing, or socializing. Suddenly, dusk no longer meant bedtime. It invited productivity and distraction. Alongside lights, timekeeping advanced. Pocket watches, pendulum clocks, and town clock towers marched seconds into every corner. The once loose concept of when the sun rises gave way to precise hours. Church bells and clock strikes regulated work, meals, and sleep. Laborers timed breaks by the bell, not by stomach grumbles. Families set specific bedtimes, to bed at 9, rise at 5, and treated sleep like a chore on the daily schedule. Natural cues took a back seat to mechanical ones. The Industrial Revolution accelerated this shift. Factories demanded synchronized labor on 12-hour or even 24-hour shifts. Night workers emerged, lamplighters, mill hands, and later, steel workers under electric arc lights. Sleep split again, not into 2 phases, but into stolen naps between shifts. Entire communities adapted. Bakeries baked through the night, laundries churned under gaslight, and taverns stayed open later to serve exhausted workers. The night became a second economy. Urbanization compounded the change. Gas lamps lit streets from dusk till dawn, and windows glowed with domestic fires. Noise carriages, street vendors, and early railways carried into the night. The concept of a quiet hour faded. People felt obliged to work, dine, or entertain. Guilt over. Idle time crept in. If you weren't making money or improving yourself after dark, you were falling behind. Even the domestic bedroom evolved. Window shutters and heavy drapes blocked streetlight. Families invested in thicker curtains, shutters, and room-darkening linen precursors to modern blackout shades. Chimneys and ventilation systems improved. To clear smoke, sleep was no longer natural. It was engineered. In literature and art, nighttime became a stage for human drama. Romantic poets mourned lost innocence beneath gaslit streets. Gothic novels used lantern-lit corridors and midnight clocks to heighten suspense. Characters prowled under moonlight sections governed by precise time. The cultural imagination absorbed mechanical night as both liberating and unsettling. Medical. Authorities warned of the harms. Too much light disrupted humors, they said. Electric light, they feared, would corrode the soul. Yet entrepreneurs marketed reading lamps and sleep clocks, promising efficient rest. Advertisements urged consumers to buy clockwork shutters and night lights. Early bedroom tech designed to optimize darkness and glow in equal measure. By the late 19th century, electric lighting burst onto the scene. Bulbs replaced open flames, offering steadier beams. Factories ran non-stop. Cities lit up like day. Humans rarely experienced true dark. Our melatonin cycles faltered. Streetcars hummed past bedroom windows at all hours. Insomniacs had new reasons to stay awake, fear of missing the action or being left behind in the race for progress. Organizations formed to fight light pollution and protect public health. Early sleep reformers recommended dark sanctuaries away from urban glare. Health spas advertised silent, gaslight-free wings. Doctors prescribed rural retreats for exhausted city dwellers. These were the first digital detox retreats, minus the digital. As night transformed, poetry and prose reflected nostalgia for pre-industrial darkness. Essays lamented forgotten rhythms, and photographers captured empty streets at dawn ghost. Towns of the modern era. Scientists studied how constant light shortened lifespans in lab animals, anticipating today's circadian research. Tonight, when you dim your screens and draw curtains, Remember the generations who battled their own innovations for a simple night's rest. Our modern routine 8 hours between midnight and dawn owes as much to factory whistles as to the sun's arc. We traded flexible, natural sleep for scheduled, segmented, artificial rest. We enter the 20th century, where sleep became big business. Mattress companies, pill manufacturers, and gadget makers all vied for our nightly attention. Your bedroom transformed into a showroom, a pharmacy, and a tech lab, often all at once. Manufacturers advertised mattresses as scientific breakthroughs. Layered springs, foam padding, and quilted tops promised posture correction and pressure relief. Ads featured sleep experts in white coats inspecting springs with calipers. They urged consumers to try before you buy, leading to crowded showrooms where shoppers reclined like hospital patients under bright lights. Salesmen touted mattresses for side sleepers, back sleepers, and combination sleepers, as if we needed a quiz for something as simple as lying down. Meanwhile, the pharmaceutical industry introduced over-the-counter sleep aids. Barbiturates and bromides arrived first, powerful sedatives with severe side effects. Doctors prescribed them to housewives with nervous exhaustion, students cramming for exams, and executives racing between late-night meetings. By mid-century, benzodiazepines like Valium and Librium became household names. They promised blissful slumber, but often led to dependence, morning grogginess, and awkward fridge raids. Electrification and radio added new layers to sleep culture. Nightlights flickered in hallways, and bedside clocks glowed green under glass domes. Children fell asleep to softly spoken bedtime stories on the radio, while adults tuned in to late-night jazz or news bulletins. These broadcasts created a shared nocturnal soundtrack and encouraged people to remain awake longer. Tune in at midnight became a cultural habit. The mattress wars and pill promotions converged with the rise of sleep hygiene as a concept. Doctors and self-help authors outlined ideal sleep routines: cool, dark rooms, strict bedtimes, avoidance of caffeine and heavy meals. These guidelines appeared in magazines under headings like "Your Best Night's Sleep Ever." Readers were told to keep sleep diaries, noting bedtime rituals and morning alertness scores. At the same time, technology introduced gadgets promising miracle rest. Sleep machines emitted white noise or gentle waves, marketed as replacements for noisy neighbors or traffic. Electric blankets warmed your toes before bedtime. Early versions of smart beds claimed to adjust firmness automatically, based on movement. Slide rule-clad engineers fine-tuned springs and motors, turning sleep into a data-driven performance metric. Clinical research expanded rapidly. Universities opened sleep labs where patients spent nights hooked to wires. And instruments. Researchers discovered REM cycles, delta waves, and circadian rhythms. They coined terms like sleep apnea and restless leg syndrome, giving names to conditions millions experienced without explanation. PUBLISHE Teepers showed how light, temperature, and noise affected sleep stages. Suddenly, rest was mapped in charts and graphs. Popular culture both celebrated and satirized this obsession. In film and television, sleeping pills became comedic props characters, snoring through phone calls or sleep walking into absurd situations. Cartoons showed pillows with logos, and children's toys included plush sheep that sleep counted. Bedtime routines became a staple of sitcom plotlines. By the 1980s and 90s, the sleep industry was a multi-billion-dollar economy. Pharmaceutical companies promoted new non-habit-forming sleep aids, even as critics warned of medicalizing. Normal rest. Mattress makers introduced memory foam, gel layers, and adjustable bases controlled by remote. Magazine spreads compared mattress features like car reviews, with star ratings and user feedback. As the new millennium dawned, digital trackers entered. Bedrooms. Wearable devices logged heart rate, movement, and sleep stages. Smartphone apps claimed to wake you at the optimal moment in your sleep cycle. Social media buzzed with sleep tips, viral videos of napping gurus, and influencers posting best sleep hacks. Privacy concerns emerged. Your mattress could now share data with your phone, your doctor, or anonymous researchers. Through it all, the simple act of closing your eyes became layered with choice and anxiety. Studies warned of sleep deprivation's linked to obesity, depression, and heart disease. Pundits argued that the quest for perfect rest had made us worse sleepers. Ironically, the more we measured and marketed sleep, the more elusive it seemed. Tonight, as you lie down, consider this. Your mattress, your pill, your app, they stand. On centuries of innovation, hype, and sincere discovery, the modern sleep industry offers comfort, convenience, and knowledge, but also complexity, cost, and confusion. Rest on that thought, doctor, and tomorrow we'll explore the psychology and neuroscience that finally began to explain what happens in your brain when you drift off. We reach the final chapter of our journey through sleep's winding history. We've wandered from firelit caves to neon glow bedrooms, from sacred dream temples to mattress showrooms, from demon-riddled nightmares to brain wave charts. It's time to tie these threads into a single reflection on why closing our eyes remains such an extraordinary act. Sleep began as a communal survival tool. Early humans huddled for warmth and safety. They shared shifts under starlight. Predators kept them alert. In that world, rest was woven into life's pulse rather than scheduled by a clock. Over time, faith and superstition draped sleep in mystery. Temples charged for prophetic naps. Monks debated whether rest was virtue or vice. Charms and crosses lined beds to fend off nightmares. As mechanical time and artificial light marched in, sleep lost its natural EBB. Church bells and assembly. Lines demanded fixed hours. Candles became our first night lights. Gas lamps and electric bulbs chased away darkness. The night transformed from refuge into a second workday and a playground for entrepreneurs. Mattress makers, pill peddlers, and gadget gurus competed for our insomnia-stricken wallets. Science then stepped in to measure what had once been immeasurable. Electrodes and EEGs charted REM cycles. Psychologists mapped dream symbols. Behaviorists linked daytime stress to midnight visions. Neuroscientists lit up brain scans showing memory consolidation. Insomnia clinics offered CBT, as an antidote to sleeplessness. Our deepest rest became a subject for data, debate, and therapy. Through each era, one truth persisted. Sleep reflects how we live. In communal caves, it mirrored our bond with nature. In temple halls, it revealed our hunger for meaning. In industrial factories, it exposed our willingness to sacrifice. Rest for progress. In modern labs, it underscores our desire to understand ourselves. Today, sleep wears many faces: ritual, refuge, status symbol, health barometer, and we juggle them all. We track hours on apps, debate mattress firmness on forums, and chase new remedies when rest proves elusive. Yet despite centuries of study, we still wake groggy, haunted by dreams, or wired by screen light. The more we try to perfect sleep, the more we realize its essence remains simple and sacred. As you lie down tonight, remember this. Every sigh of relief against a pillow carries echoes of our ancestors' fears and hopes. Each yawn ties you to temple supplicants and midnight watchmen. Every gentle night noise reminds you of distant labs charting your brain waves. Sleep is both a basic need and a rich tapestry of human experience. So surrender to that humble ritual, closing your eyes, and know you participate in a story as old as humanity itself. No gadget, no pill, no expert guide can replace the quiet magic of rest. Trust your body, honor your rhythms, and embrace the beautiful mystery that has both plagued and blessed us for millennia. Good night, and may your dreams be ever curious and your slumber ever kind.